Let's work now in class discussion 8. Let's connect to the world. And these are the strategies I want you to remember every time we work with word problems. Circle the numbers, underline keywords, box the question, and even don't do this, even just the first thing. And you can always do diagrams or pictures. So let's now work on the problem. The height of the golf ball hit into the air is modeled by the equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 48t. So I see numbers here. We'll just encircle this one and highlight. Okay, underline, so the height. So this one represents the height of the golf ball. Okay. Now where h represents the height in feet and t represents the number of seconds that have passed since the ball was hit. Now the question here is, what is the height of the ball after 2 seconds? So you have here 2 seconds, and this is the question, so I'll box it. And there are 3 questions here. What is the maximum height? So I'll just box the question just to remind myself. So these are the 3 different questions. Okay, so let's now work out on this problem. So you're given the function h equals negative 16t squared plus 48t. The question is, what is the height of the ball after after 2 seconds? Okay, so you're asked to find what is the height. So it's asking for h. Okay, and when the time t is equal to 2 seconds. So it looks to me that this is a simple plug in the equation, because you are given the equation here h, you are given the time. So I will just copy the equation given, h equals negative 16 t squared plus 48t. So what I would like to do here is that t equals 2, I'm going to plug it in here to find the height. So we have now h equals negative 16 times 2 squared plus 48 times 2. Okay, so I plug in 2. So this is what I plug in from here. So here you can just do in the calculator. So you have h equals, do that in the calculator, 16 times 2 squared plus 48 times 2, then press enter. So this one is 160. So the height is represented in terms of feet, so I would say this is 160 feet. So this is the height of the ball. Okay, now letter B, you're asked here what is the maximum height of the ball and what time it reaches its maximum height. Okay, so maximum height, so it's asking actually for the vertex, and at what time it reaches its maximum height. So this is actually your, okay, the matching point actually. So let's copy first the formula. So we have here h equals negative 16t squared plus 48t. Okay, so I like to write the standard form just to remind ourselves. We have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, which means now my a value is negative 16, my b value is 48. So I'll use the idea of finding the axis of symmetry and the vertex on the previous discussions, if you still remember. So let's find the axis of symmetry. So find the axis of symmetry. So you have x equals negative b over 2a. Now in this case, the variable used here this time is not x. I will just replace this one as t equals. Okay, so the variable used this time is t, not x, but you know, it's always x is always any variable used in the equation. So t equals, so your b value is this one, that's 48, and your a value is negative 16. So just pay attention to that. So this would be negative of 48 over 2 times your a value is negative 16. Then let's simplify this. So we have here t equals, okay, so do that in the calculators. It should be negative 48 over 2 times negative 16. That gives you negative 32. So your t therefore is equal to, so negative 48 divided by negative 32, that gives you 1.5. So this one is 1.5. So t, this one is seconds. So this one is our time. It reaches its maximum. Okay, now let's find the height now, the maximum height. So it should be h equals, so just copy the formula, negative 16t squared plus 48t. We have h is equal to, we have now, we substitute the value now. So we have here, whatever t value here, I'm going to substitute it here. Okay, so we have now negative 16 times 1.5 squared plus 48 times 1.5. So h therefore equals, so simply do that in the calculators and just highlighting this, that this is we plug in. So we have now negative 16 times 1.5 squared, forget the 0.5, then squared, plus 48 times 1.5, then press enter, and this one gives you 36. The height is represented in terms of feet, so this would be feet, and this one represents the maximum height. Okay, so that's the answer for question B. Now this time we'll have letter C, at what time the ball reaches the ground. Okay, so when you try to have an illustration here, so if the graph, if you throw the ball here, so it should be like this. So just an illustration, what time it reaches the ground. So here, Now, when it reaches the ground, let's identify what's in here now. This is about height and time. Okay. So when you try to analyze this is the ball here that you throw. It reaches a maximum, then it goes down until it reaches the ground. So when the moment it reaches the ground, the height there would be equal to 0. And this one, it hits the ground at a certain time. Okay, so here in this case, you are simply asked to find what is time when h is equal to 0. That means it reaches the ground. So let's have the function given. So it should be h equals negative 16 t squared plus 48t. So here we are finding t that h is equal to 0. So what we can do here is whatever h here, we are going to plug it in here. Okay, so that means that is my 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 48t. Okay, so this one now goes back to solving quadratic equations. So we have learned two methods here in solving quadratic equation. We can use the quadratic formula, or we can actually use the completing the square. Now, whichever you're comfortable, it doesn't matter which method you are using here. So in this case, I just would like to use the quadratic formula here. So we have here the standard form. So we have here ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so in this case, this means my a is negative 16, my b is 48, and my c is actually equal to 0. So we are now solving for t. Okay, so I will just write the formula here. So from here, I will just write the formula. So we have here, we're not using x this time, so you have t. So t equals negative b. I'll just write the structure. Remember the last time. So you have here negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. Yep, 2a. I will just write here, this is your b, this is your b, this is your a, and this is your c, and this is your a. Again, you don't have to worry about this provided in the Regents exam. The quadratic formula is provided. So the b value is 48. So I will just plug it in. So this one is also 48. The a value is negative 16. And then the c value is 0. The a value is negative 16. Then, like the last time, we just enter first the one in the parentheses. So this one is now negative 48 plus minus square root of something divided by 2 times negative 16. 2 times negative 16, that gives you negative 32. Okay, let's do that in the calculator. So remember last time we just enter everything in the calculator. This part here, all of this, and put the answer here. Okay, so let's do that in the calculator. So we have 48 squared minus 4 times negative 16, then times 0. Okay, press enter. So this guy gives you 2,304. So this is 2,300. Okay, 4. See if there's any square root here. So second square root of 2,304 Press enter. Okay, so there is a square root, so we'll just have to have that one. So t, so this one would be t equals negative 48 plus minus 48 divided by negative 32. So we can split this one into two answers now. So two possible answers would be t equals negative 48 plus 48 divided by negative 32. The other one would be t equals negative 48 minus 48 divided by negative 32. Okay, so let's work this out in the calculator. So I encourage you to use the alpha y equals, so alpha y equals, then press enter just to have the fraction form. Do not need to have, you can do it one at a time also. So negative 48 plus 48 divided by negative 32, press enter, and this one gives you 0. So t is equal to 0, and then the other one would be alpha y equals, press enter. So we have here negative 48 minus 48, and then we have here negative 32, press enter. This should be 3. So t equals 3. Okay, now let's analyze the results now, because at what time the ball reaches the ground. So you have two possible answers here, but what is the meaning when t equals 0? This means this is where you started, and this means this is where it reaches the ground. So which means that this is our final answer. It reaches the ground at 3 seconds. Okay, it's a lot of work, but it should be doable.